Night Show. This is your host, Harry Smith, and in the studio with me is Assistant City Manager Frank Oviedo and Rick Gould, the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Here we're talking about all things City of Santa Clarita every third Friday, and one of the things we were just talking about was some of the amazing things the city's doing with its hiking trails, and its plan to kind of basically trail from one end of this valley to the other with just basically being interconnected. And one of the ways it gets the word out about that is with hikesantaclarita.com. Rick, can you tell me a little bit about how that project with that website started and just, kind of what a resource that is for our residents?
Again, going back to what Frank was talking about a little bit earlier in the hour, the city long ago saw the need for a transportation plan, get cars across the valley. At the same time, in the early stages of the city saw a need for a trail plan. And the City Council and the Parks and Recreation Commission at the time really actively pushed a citywide trail plan. You see much of that now when you drive down Soledad Canyon. You see the Class 1 bike trail on the side. At the same time, we had a lot of multi-use trails on that plan where you could be hiking through the hills. And so one of the real advantages of the open space district and all the other types of open space acquisition we've done with the developers has been as we acquire this land, a lot of the land that we're trying to acquire is where this trail plan said we should put a trail. And so as we've started to acquire this land, and we've now acquired, really since inception of the city, and largely in many parts because of the open space district, we have over 8,000 acres now in public holding. It allows us to begin to build and develop these trails. Some of the developments like Golden Valley Ranch and our East Walker Ranch development, we've really put in some fairly robust trail systems.
And just going back a step, how do you guys develop that trail plan, and how is that kind of shaped? Who's working on that, and what's the process there?
Well, I think the trail plan said we want to get from point A to point B. We'd like to be able to go from the east side of the city to the west side of the city, or we want to go north to south, or we'd like to go along the river, or going up this canyon makes a lot of sense, and then you can connect to that. So that was important. There's also, way out on the east side of the city, out towards Agua Dulce, the Pacific Crest Trail, one of the nationally important trails, goes north to south from Mexico to Canada. So how can we connect with that? And so that all kind of went into the planning phases. And so that, we sort of drew lines on the map.
Oh, okay.
And would the trail necessarily be exactly where the line is? No, but it'll probably be within, 100 yards or quarter miles somehow. But the point was to be able to transit that corridor. And so as we've acquired this land, now staff that work in the Parks Planning and Open Space Division in my department are actually going out there, and they're taking GPS devices and they're walking those routes. And once they figure out, okay, here's the best way to go, then when we have funding available to us, we're cutting those trails. We're actually out in Wildwood Canyon, which is just outside the Happy Valley area of Newhall, cutting trails today. It's a roughly 100-acre parcel, and it's it'd be a great afternoon walking location. It'll eventually connect to Las Lomas, which will then connect to Towsley Canyon, and then back to Ellesmere. So as we acquire these parcels through open space, we are able to build the trails. One of the things we are doing with these trails too is we're trying to be cognizant of who might use them. It's sort of like a ski resort. There are beginner trails, and there are intermediate trails and advanced trails. And one of the ways we communicate that is through our website, hikesantaclarita.com. And you can actually go on the website, it's pretty cool, and you can pick a location you'd like to go for a Saturday afternoon hike. You click on it, it'll pull down that location, and you can actually print a copy of the trail map. And it'll tell you, the blue trail is less strenuous, the yellow trail a little more, and the red trail bring a lot of water.
Okay.
And so the website has become sort of our focal point for getting the message out about the trails and the open spaces that we've acquired. And then it also links to the other locations that are in the valley that may not necessarily be either owned by the city or managed by the city.
And so when you're building a trail, how do you create like a standard, like a path size for people to get through, or how is that? What is that?
We have a standard width that, it's if you can imagine those little bobcat loaders that you see, digging out people's, making a swimming pool for somebody.
Sure.
That's about what we use. We're using that to cut a trail, and over time, the growth of the wildflowers and stuff
will start to regrow.
We'll regrow it, but people, use those trails, and we'll go out every once in a while, make sure they're working. Have a lot of really good volunteer groups that go out and maintain trails for us. There's a very active group out here called the Community Hiking Club, uses the trails. They're always telling us, hey, by the way, this washed out. So it's all part of the process. We're constantly taking a look at it. But there's, I want to say, somewhere close to 40 miles of multi-use trail that have been developed in the last few years that that are available for public use.
And all of these are on the hiking website as
Yep.
far as, is there any other information out there that people should know about on the website?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it talks about safety on the trails. Obviously, this is rattlesnake season. We do have other larger critters that are out in that parts of the wilderness that they need to be aware of. There's recommendations on, how to dress, sunscreen, water, all those types of things. It is a very comprehensive website, and I'd suggest they go there before they take one of those hikes.
Okay, and you guys are still, obviously, that's constantly, it's a dynamic site. You guys are always
Absolutely.
adding trails, so I'd imagine you guys are always updating the site, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, cool. And then anything, we just have about a minute left, but anything coming up that we can talk about as far as just on the horizon? You'd mentioned the Central Park improvements. Anything else people should look out for?
Well, let's just say I don't think we're done in the New Hall Pass area with open space. We have some other projects out there that I think will become, the public will become aware of over the next 6 months to a year. We're still looking for open space. We'll still want to acquire it, and we're also going to be doing some upgrading of the park facilities. So,
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Frank Oviedo, our Assistant City Manager, and Rick Gould, our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Thanks for your time. This is the City Spotlight Show with your host, Perry Smith, on AM 1220 KHTS.